Welcome back to the Blue Review. On today's episode, I'm going to be giving my thoughts and review for the 2026 movie I Love Boosters. First off, I'll jump into my non-spoiler thoughts, just so in case you haven't seen the movie, you can still hear my general opinion, and if you want, you could come back after you've watched it and watch the full review. And I'll give a fair warning before I jump into spoilers. I Love Boosters is written and directed by Boots Riley. It stars Keke Palmer, Naomi Ackie, Isaac Gonzalez, Lakeith Stanfield, Will Poulter, Poppy Liu, Demi Moore, Taylor Page, Don Cheadle, and Kara Young. Just generally speaking, I had such a blast with this movie. I think it is a thrill ride. It is eye and ear candy from start to end, and this is a one-of-one type movie that only Boots Riley could create and come up with in his head. I would love to see in Boots' mind, because how do you come up with something as absurd as this? He is a director who is known for out-of-the-box thinking and ideas that aren't the typical standard norm, which we've seen before in I Am a Virgo, Sorry to Bother You, and now I Love Boosters. And it is no exception here at all. His mind works like no other director I've ever seen. Some of the ideas that you see throughout the movie are just so absurd that you probably won't believe what you're seeing. And I think that is so important in today's climate of movies. I Love Boosters is a breath of fresh air. It is so colorful, so creative. Creative doesn't even begin to explain what this movie is. It is filled with satire, political satire, corporation greed, lifting up the wrong people, letting them take your ideas and profit off of it, and so much more. I've only seen this movie once, and I really need to see it at least 5 to 10 more times to understand every single idea that is going on throughout this movie. It is so smart, maybe sometimes to its own detriment, that it's not gonna click with everybody for sure, especially some people that don't do rewatches. I think you might just come out of this, if you're a person that only watches movies once, you might come out of this and be like, that doesn't make sense, it's not for me. And then from then on, you might judge it harshly, when it really deserves another watch to fully understand all of the critical themes at play. And again, Boots Riley is incredibly smart and witty with his writing, and his framing of every scene is just breathtaking, honestly. And it is just so beautiful to watch. Like I said, it is just pure eye candy the whole time. I think you could pause any frame of any second of this movie and you probably couldn't find an ugly frame, honestly. From the very beginning, when we get the title card with a wonky score, we know that it's going to be an absurd ride, to say the least. And speaking of the score, it is one of the most original, quirkiest, wonkiest pieces of music in a movie that I've ever heard in my entire life. And it could only fit, like, a score like this could be overwhelming and overpowering for many movies and many directors, but with Boots and I Love Boosters, it is the perfect match made in heaven. It meshes perfectly, and it is very cohesive to his thought process. Everything in the movie is so absurd and dreamlike sequences left and right that the whimsical ear candy of a score really comes through and works and helps the story at hand instead of hurts it. The cast was great. It is such a stacked cast. Everybody from Demi Moore, Keke Palmer, all the way to Don Cheadle and his little screen time really knocked it out of the park here and sold me on what was happening, even if it was the most absurd thing I've ever seen. Keke is really good in this, but the standouts for me were Taylor Page and Naomi Ackie. And in today's world, we always hear that we need more original ideas on the big screens. We don't go see movies anymore because it's only franchises. Well, I Love Boosters is probably the most ambitious and creative and original movie that I've ever seen. And I think that even if you're not into weird movies or something, you should give this a shot because it is so creative and original. So I would highly recommend you seek this out and open yourself up to original ideas. Currently, I would rate this movie a 4 to a 4.5 out of 5, just on creative vision and original ideas alone. And that will do it for my non-spoiler review. I'm going to jump into spoilers right now, so if you haven't seen the movie, come back and watch it after. This might be the wildest fucking movie I've ever seen in my life. I thought Sorry to Bother You was absurd, and it has dreamlike qualities as well, and you can't tell what's real, what's not. But this takes it to a whole nother level with with Lakeith Stanfield as
With a key
playing a soul-sucking vaginal with Lakeith Stanfield playing a vaginal soul-sucking demon. I mean, you can't really get crazier than that. That scene was absurd to the max, Like I said, there is so many absurdities throughout the process of this film, but that's just one to name the few. That scene though was honestly amazing. When I saw it, I kind of wasn't. Okay, I was shocked. I was gonna say like I'm used to Boots Riley and his work, so I was expecting some crazy shit like like in Sorry to Bother You with the horse, but this was just a whole different level. Um, but the thing is, people tried to do absurd ideas and constructs with film, but they don't always pan out because they're just played for shock value. They have nothing to do with a story plot, and they're not really well executed when it's just shock value. But with Boots Riley, and especially with Lakeith Stanfield in this role, he plays it so straightforward, and you just can't help but believe what he's doing. So when we get to that scene with Boots and his absurdities, he executes them so well that you will buy into it. No matter how fucking crazy it is, he looked like a during that scene, he looked like a gigantic worm with vampire teeth. The teeth, funny enough, reminded me of a scene in Sinners with Remick when his teeth are showing, and Lakeith had almost that same thing, but like exaggerated, you know. And like I said, with other directors, you don't always buy into the absurdities of an idea when it's shock value. But with Boots, it was done so efficiently, and the scene just looked amazing. Like, it's a crazy idea. She's levitating because the sex is so good, but at the time, it is scary as fuck when you see Lakeith. But the lighting behind it is playing so much into the tension and the feeling of this scene. And another thing that plays so well into the feeling of this movie is the score, like I said, and it hits so constantly. It's hammered in your brain, and ever since seeing the movie, I really can't stop thinking about it. I wake up and I hear the score in my head. I listened to it yesterday afternoon. It's one of my favorite scores in recent memory. Not like it's not grand. Like you hear favorite and people think, "Oh, it's grand. It's the Dune level. It's the Interstellar level." No, it's one of my favorites because it is so odd, quirky, and creative, yet it adds so much to the plot and story depth that I really think that they knocked it out of the park. And the main score and music for this movie was done by a group called Tune Yards. Also, the original music for this movie, done by Kiki Palmer, Boots Riley, and other producers and writers, fit it so perfectly. I was jamming, man. When 100% Angel came on, I was like, that's Kiki, hold up. But it was so good. It was like disco Prince, and they had a Prince needle drop in this movie, so I wouldn't be surprised if they were 100% influenced by Prince. And funny enough, that Prince needle drop Adore came on during the eating scene for Lakeith. So I think Boots Riley is really a one of one type director, not even that, but just a person whose mind works like this in the world that we actually know. I know nobody with a mind like this. And maybe it's because he doesn't come from traditional filmmaking background. He did music for so long. Maybe that helps him see things differently, and he doesn't have to do everything in a normal cadence or rhythm or plot device. Like, he does his own thing, and if it works, it works. And most of the time, he gets a lot of good reception and reviews for his movies for his out of the box thinking. I think he is one of the most important directors and voices for this generation of filmmaking, and also the upcoming generation of filmmaking and writers and directors and people that are just creative beings. To me, he is the absolute blueprint for believing in yourself and your crazy ass ideas and taking chances and big ass fucking swings on ideas that aren't considered the typical norm. Like, I am sure the first project he made was probably hard to get made, first of all, and to get somebody to believe in them, because on paper it might sound like the craziest stuff you've ever heard in your life. And if you worked in the film industry for such a long time and you see something come up like this scene with Lakeith, for instance, it's hard to buy into that because you're so used to a standard outline. And for somebody to deviate so hard from it is so refreshing. I know a lot of people look up to him. I look up to him, and I'm so glad he's so vocal about this movie and he's been promoting it left and right. And I really hope that it is a success in his eyes, at least, even if it doesn't become a success at the box office, because we need original ideas. We need creativity that's not normal. We need somebody with a gumption to do something different. And that is exactly who Boots Riley is. And going into the cast, I think Kiki Palmer was really great here. I was excited to see her in this. She's one of my favorite comedic and presence actors. To no fault of her own, she really gets typecasted a lot nowadays for her Kiki isms. So it's like she plays this caricature of Kiki, and that's what everybody wants. So every time you see her, it's like the same mannerisms that they want from her. So it was refreshing what Boots got out of her for this role, and he gave her something different to do. She still has a lot of those Kiki-isms, but it's a very different flavor here. She's still funny, witty, but she's also this antagonist with something obviously going on underneath the surface that is present throughout the entire film. So she gets to be a little more laid back and toned into what is happening plot wise. And I think she knocks it out of the park here. I thought the imagery with everything around Kiki's character, Corvette, was just so refreshing, and it was such a good idea that we've kind of seen before. Like the whole time she sees this huge ball of like garbage, but it's like clothes, it's like electronics. And I receive that as like it's her burdens to bear and it's just weighing her down. Throughout, she has this theming of feeling lonely and not wanting to be alone. And the whole time, this boulder, as you will, she has to push it up this hill. She has to carry it on her shoulders. It's always there in the back of her mind. So that imagery was really well done. I'm very curious on how Boots and them did it. I don't know if it was a miniature model, which it might have been, because I've seen some behind the scenes of Boots working with miniatures. But all in all, I thought that was such good imagery for Corvette's character. And with the ending of her accepting where she's at in life and standing up for herself and not falling into giving up her life for a demon, even though they're making a great offer. I will love you and I could change and I'll be a real person. She doesn't give in to that. She doesn't give in to Lakeith's character. I thought that was really great imagery, and the imagery really shines throughout this entire movie. And Boots is known for that. But when I say colorful, I'm not even kidding. This might be the most colorful movie of the decade, the last 2 decades. It is absurdly colorful, and it plays right into his theming. Like I said, it's not just there to be there. Like with Boots, I've learned that everything that he does is intentional. No matter how out of this world the idea or set piece might be, it's there for a core reason. And one of my favorites was the building that Demi Moore's character Christy Smith is in. When we first see the building, we see it in this framing. It is so nice. It looks like it's shot on film. And this one shot of the building alone, it reminded me of this Philip Seymour Hoffman movie, Synecdoche, New York. The way that the buildings look in that movie, especially near the end of that movie, no spoilers, but with the buildings and the framing of it was very similar. And I really liked it. You could even see some like film grain in it. And the building just looked grandiose and beautiful from the start. But the funny thing with the building is it's turned sideways, it's skewed. And I was like, oh, that's a cool. What is he trying to say with that? And I thought it was just for effect. But then we pan into the actual office of that building and we see Chrissy Smith, Demi Moore's character, standing sideways. Like, everything is weird and slanted because the building is literally at a slope and slant. And there's this barista that brings in her coffee with a big ass espresso machine on wheels, and she is struggling to get it in there because it's just sliding down literally. And Christy's like, "You got to use your core. Use your core. You wore the wrong soles." So that was so funny. And to me, that's saying Demi Moore's character, Christy Smith, kind of is used to everything handed to her. It's going to be done her way or no way. No matter what happens, it's going to be done her way. It's kind of imposing, though, if you think about it, because Christy Smith walks around like it's nothing. She's not falling, she's not sliding, and she's literally doing everything so effortlessly. And she stops the coffee cart like it was nothing. So I really like that absurdity as well. And again, I need to go back and watch it again to get more of the themes that are being told with the absurdities. This video right now is just kind of like a open thought process journal. I have no structure to this. I'm just going around where my mind takes me and what I'm thinking about the movie. And I need to do more watches, and then I might do an in-depth breakdown or review for this movie because I think it really needs it. I might not be smart enough to do that, so we'll see. But some more of the cast I really enjoyed was Will Poulter and Don Cheadle. They didn't have huge parts in this movie, and I didn't expect them to. But when I saw Don Cheadle, he was unrecognizable as Dr. Jack, and I thought he was absolutely hilarious. Honestly, this might be my favorite Don Cheadle performance in the last decade. He was just so good and convincing, and he even changed his voice, and obviously he had like a fat suit on and a lot of makeup and everything. And the makeup department did incredible with him and throughout this entire movie. But the character of Dr. Jack was so interesting to me because ever since I was a kid, I've always heard of these pyramid schemes. And I think we all know somebody or have partaked in them ourselves. And as I said in the beginning, Keke Palmer's character is very lonely and she has that theme throughout. So her character, Corvette, is confiding in Naomi Aki's character, Sade. And Sade suggests, hey, let's go see Dr. Jack. He's got this great thing. And Corvette's like, he's always spewing nonsense. He's always got some kind of gimmick scheme going on. And he was like pastor like, so I thought that was funny too. It played into how churches always ask for something to receive something. At least in a lot of communities, that's how it is. There's a lot of churches around that ask before they give, you know? So I thought that was funny how they almost made Dr. Jack like this. Like this mega church pastor. He's asking for money. I think it was like $2,000 or $1,000 he was asking for to join this pyramid. And he was literally writing names on it. He had like he had political figures, rappers, actors. It was hilarious. And then at the top of it, it said you. I thought that was really witty and funny. It's not only funny, like I said, but it's also really smart satire for today's political environment and plays into the world's real life characters. And that's exactly what a lot of this movie does. It takes real life things and it turns them into these insane characters and makes mockeries out of them. Will Poulter was also absolutely hilarious as the character of Grayson. Demi Moore's character is his designer, and she has a lot of chain stores that sell all of her designs. And Will Poulter is the manager of one of those stores. He is such a suck up and worships Christy Smith, and the store aspect really brought a lot of fun, colorful aspects, as if the movie wasn't colorful enough already. For each new season that Christy Smith comes out with, and each month, the stores change in color code. So everything in the store for this season will be yellow or green. So we got to see a lot of funny visuals, but when we're introduced to Will Poulter's character, Isa Gonzalez, and her coworker, there's only like $30 on their check, 30 to 40. And they're going to ask Grayson, their manager, what's going on with the money. But it is so funny because it is so loud in the scene. There's EDM just blasting on the speaker. And they try to ask him, and he's like, I can't hear you. There's just a lot of funniness within this scene and how it really is in some stores. And it's just like a superior complex, like, I'm better than you. And that's what the store was giving off. Will Poulter is so funny in this role. And when the EDM is blasting, he's doing a dance that doesn't go with EDM. You know, he's just so free and open with it, and I thought he was absolutely hilarious, and I would have loved to see more of his character and Don Cheadle's character, but I think they did what they had to do for the story. And going into the main story, we learned that there is a group of boosters, the people that steal shoplift from stores and resell it for cheaper to their community, kind of like modern day Robin Hoods, you know, and they're called the Velvet Gang. And I really like this take on taking down capitalism, and it's not promoting shoplifting or stealing or anything like that, but a lot of times when they were in there going to boost, they would look at the price tags and it was like $2,000 for this green dress. And it's like, why does any clothes cost that much money? Why does everything in the world cost so much money and the workers don't get paid at all? Isaac Gonzalez's character doesn't get paid because he charges them for clothes that he makes them buy in store. So they don't get no money. They don't get any free clothes. It is just, the world is backwards. And it's a really good take on economic value, company value, and worth of your workers, and how we as a society have been taken advantage of for so long and work for pennies on the dime. But we have to live. We have to eat. You know, we have to pay our rent. We have to pay our mortgage. We can't get out of this fuck ass job because we'll get evicted, you know, that type of thing. The bills don't stop coming no matter what's going on in your life. So sometimes that leads people down the wrong paths. And with the boosters, it's like they got that job there, but it was just a steal But at the end of the day, they got a job and there was no pay, and they know their worth. They know they deserve better. And it's a good concept for community. There's a scene where they're selling these boosted clothes. It's a mom and her kids, and they're buying clothes for school. And they're selling these clothes for really cheap. And I think that's what kills Chrissy Smith so much, is because her designer clothes are being sold for very, very cheap. It's not just designer clothes, but anyways, the mom says, without you guys, we wouldn't be able to afford clothes for our kids and their school. That's a really beautiful topic, and to think about, if there wasn't so much greed and capitalism, what we could do as a society if we could just help each other out and not charge us to death. There's so many taxes and hidden fees nowadays. This movie really gave you a sense of hope. Is wild and out there as it is, I think it really is about lifting up community, self-worth, and coming together for a common cause of freedom, or whatever it is that is worth fighting for. And I think that is beautiful, and that's what I mean. You could do absolutely absurd ideas that people don't think are valuable, and you can still put so much heart and good meaning into those ideas. So the whole boosting concept was really well done, I thought, throughout. And I think it was so funny and out there again how they boosted the clothes. When we first see Kiki boosting clothes, she is stuffing them in her shirt, and I and it is so funny when she walks out of the store. It's like, okay, she's got a couple shirts, right? No, she is like blowed up, like 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 the Michelin tire man. Like, it's crazy how much she got in there, and it's all down throughout her pants as well. And the boosting idea also brings up topics of racism and discrimination. For them to be able to boost these clothes, they have to go and get a white girl to help them out and cause a distraction. And that's because when they go in alone, they're viewed differently and all eyes are on them because of the color of their skin. And that is incredibly sad, but it is akin to not only for today's world, but since mankind, since the beginning of time. People sadly get judged based off of the color of their skin. And I think it brings up these great topics of privilege and self identity, and battling with wanting to be something that you're not just because of how the world perceives you, and how ugly that can be, when really you should be able to feel beautiful and accepting of the skin that you're currently in and who you are as a person and an individual. So, as I said, these are just things I'm thinking out loud, and I need to go back to get all of the theming. But one of the best scenes in the movie was a boosting scene with Taylor Page's character. And their white girl of the day doesn't show up to help them. She fell out. She had to take her mom to the hospital. So Corvette's like, we can't do this today. We got to back out. We'll do it another day. And Mariah's like, I don't got a white girl. I can't give you exactly white girl, but I got this. And this is probably the hardest I've laughed in theaters in years. She goes down, holds her breath, and she comes up as a more light-skinned woman. And the face of this actress, I'm pretty sure her name is Robin Thede. She absolutely killed this bit and sold it. And she's like very like she's very posh and proper in this moment, and she goes in and she keeps losing her breath, so she has to so she's out of practice, she says. So it's when she holds her breath, everything is a different shape and shade of skin color. And that says so much without actually saying it. When she goes in, they welcome her and they're trying to show her some stuff, and she's already getting a different welcome than when she was in the store last time. But at the same time, they're still following her. So even though she's more light skinned, they're still doing the same thing. They don't trust her. But I thought this actress and Taylor Page absolutely killed this scene. And I laughed so hard at this. And the story's about boosting these clothes and getting them for money. Naomi's character, Sade, she's all in it and about it for her kids. She wants to sell this to get them through college, to feed them. That's what it is for most of them. They want to sell these clothes and just make a living to survive. But it becomes so much more throughout the movie with Corvette's character, especially when Poppy Liu is introduced, becomes more of a vengeance plot, a revenge tale. When we are introduced to Corvette's character for one of the first times, we see her environment, and she has books written by Christy Smith. She's annotated notes for the book, and there's obviously some admiration there, but her friends think she hates her. It also brings up a good topic of jealousy and admiration. We admire these people for what they've done in life and for paving a way for themselves, but we still find ourselves jealous of that fact. that they've done that and we haven't. And there's many reasons that that happens. In this case, Corvette, she was submitting a design, but she never did. But later on, Corvette encounters Christy Smith, and after that encounter, Christy steals Corvette's dress design. Corvette never submitted it. She thought it was too crazy, too funky, but she posted it on her Instagram account. Christy must have saw it. She looked her up, researched her, and found it, whatever have you, or there was some kind of weird intuition thing there. Again, that plays into what really happens in the world. Stuff like this happens all of the time. I've been a victim of it, and many people have been victims of it. You have a original idea, or you think it is, and someone just comes along and takes it. I do music as well, and I've had people use my lyrics. Like, they followed me, and then they heard a song I did, and later on, a month later or whatever, they used one of my lyrics. And it's like, whatever, you just got to move on. But it's a very difficult thing, especially when you don't have any momentum in the world and somebody of greater value comes along and takes your original idea and sells it as their own. It's like, man, I really had a great idea if they're considering stealing it. But how shitty is that the world just lets people like that get away with it, and they pawn it off as their own, and then they get the success, they get the income from that idea. So again, with Christy's character, she is more of a typical like bad guy. She just hates people, but then she also has a lot of things going underneath. Like, she's a character of a lot of, I would say, political figures and just company CEOs, but there's also a lot there to take in underneath the surface. Corvette really admires Christy and her design choices and everything, and then that admiration becomes hate, absolute hatred. So the movie really circles around her and Poppy Liu's character wanting vengeance. And I thought the whole subplot with China and the factory workers was a really good addition. It can be a lot when this topic is introduced. I mean, that is such a common thing that we always hear, is workers underpaid in factories just for like fabrics and for goods, for phones, for everything. So it's a really good concept, but I think the fault of this movie, there's only a couple faults that I could pick out. On my first viewing, I found certain moments midway to the end point a little dragging. Ideas get introduced so jarringly that not everything always clicks cohesively. Like, I was praising the scoring of this movie and the music and sonics, but there's a couple phases where I really couldn't hear the dialogue of the characters and their interaction because the score was very boosted and the vocals of the actors was in the background. And I don't know if that was a stylistic choice. Like I said, I want to watch it again to see if that was something I just wasn't picking up on. Maybe it's just incoherent, like it's an incoherent thought that you're not supposed to hear out loud. That could say a lot too. Maybe it is that. But in that moment, it took me out of what was happening because I was like, what's going on? And they kept using the main theme over and over and over throughout this movie. And it becomes a little like, okay, I get it. But it's such a good theme that I don't completely mind. So I think some of the concepts didn't completely click with me in the end when it was all said and done. But like I said, I truly appreciate this movie for its gumption, for its ideas, and for following through with them and giving us something I've never seen in my life. I really don't think there's a movie comparable to I Love Boosters unless it's another Boots Riley movie. And I hope he continues making movies forever. I really love his creative vision and his ideas and concepts. And going into more of the plot with Lakeith, I said, was one of the craziest things I've seen, right? It gets even crazier near the end of it. So the big thing that comes ahead is Christy Smith is having a new line and she's doing a runway, and people are like, this is a make or break for Christy Smith. All her clothes are getting stolen. So she's blaming the boosters for her failure when really nobody's buying that stuff because it is so overpriced. So she's having this big runway show, and the idea here is to really make her pay, steal all her stuff, provoke change in the heat of it all. And the whole time we kept hearing about these $100,000 suits. They go and they're gonna boost them is the idea. And then one suit's $100,000. That pays for all of her kids' college. That pays for them. And there was boxes and boxes of it. But the twist here is we find out the suits are just skin suits. They take off the suits and they're just flesh. There's so much there that I need to dive into and heavily think about it. Because there's always that saying like, that person is a lizard. They're not a human. That's a skin suit. They're acting human, but they're not real. That motherfucker's not real. Like that stuff is big conspiracy theories and people really believe it. But it also is like these CEOs, these corporations, these political figures, they're not humane. They're not human forward. They're profit forward. And with Christy, they're bragging on Christy because she's so innovative and made literal human skin suits. It was so crazy and it was shocking to see, but I really enjoyed how it turned to claymation and animation figures because I was like, oh man, they're just gonna be butt naked skinned people. And I was like, oh, that's too much. So I think it was tasteful actually to do claymation. And then that brought along a lot of fun set pieces. There was this amazing car chase scene where they go through the mall and they use miniature figures and miniature cars. And it's just a lot of fun what you can do with claymation. And I'm such a big fan of claymation as an art form. And I think for it to intertwine with live action, you have to have a really good hand. You have to balance it properly or it'll just fall flat and really take you out of what's happening. But since Boots set up all this crazy shit happening early on, there's so much dreamlike stuff happening. You don't know what's real in the moment. It really worked for me. And I was like, this would happen in this world. I thought maybe some of the claymation stuff could have been a little dragging, a little long. I think it could have been resolved a little earlier because another big plot device was the teleporter that was in the China factory. When we're introduced to Poppy Liu's character, we see her on security footage with this teleporter, and it was literally sucking in all the clothes in Christy Smith's store. So that becomes a big plot device, and they use it to transform, destructure. It's really insane what this thing could do. So that's a big plot device, and some of it was like drawn out, like especially at the end with the chase in the factory, the chase with these skinwalkers. It was really fun, but I thought that aspect of the movie could have been shortened a little. I really liked the device of the teleporter. I thought that was a wild and fun idea. But again, I think that sequencing right there maybe could have been shifted or just a little cut here and there. And another thing with the skinwalkers that's a fun idea is when the suits are found at the end, somebody wears it and they get arrested for the crimes of the previous skinwalker that wore that same suit. And they're like, I swear it wasn't me. This suit, this guy was in it. And that happens in real life. And as sad as it is, the world we live in with AI, and we can't believe our own eyes nowadays. People say that a political figure will do something absolutely incriminating, but then they'll just 100% blame it on AI. So I think that could also be a topic at hand for this movie. What do you believe? What do you not believe? What are we letting these people get away with? All in all, I thoroughly enjoyed my time with this movie. I think it is 100% a must watch. I don't know if it's still showing in your theater in your area, but if it is, I'd highly recommend seeking it out. And if not, rent it or buy the Blu-ray when it comes out and support this movie, support creative minds like Boots Riley, because it is so important. We're not a creative pushing forward society. I feel like we just like recycled shit over and over and over. How many times you turn on the radio and you hear the same pop song with just different vocalists? It's kind of sickening. And with the world and with the film industry accepting a lot of AI things nowadays and getting storyboards made for it, writing actual dialogue for the movies, it is truly sickening. With movies like I Love Boosters, they're very rare commodity nowadays. There's so many great movies out right now with creative vision behind it, like this movie Obsession, first time directors with backrooms. There's so much smaller budget movies coming out now that are creative first, passion first projects, and that is so important. Like when you have a voice behind a movie and an idea that truly believes in what they're doing, it's so refreshing and it is very needed. And yeah, I Love Boosters is one of my favorite movies of the year so far. And as always, watch more movies, feel more things, and laugh a little harder. Thank you for watching. This has been another Blue Review.